I think we are there.
Do you want to hold it? You want it to come to your hand? Yeah. Okay. Oh, we've done it. No.
You don't have to tap, press so hard. You could just tap it.
Rose, you want to be in charge of letting everyone in?
Okay. Shavua. Okay, so Shavua Tov, everyone. Agutavach. A special Shabbat coming from Purim straight into Shabbat, and now actually going to Havdallah, trying to take that great spirit of the Purim and Shabbat and bring it into our week, that the week should be an incredible week with blessing, incredible week of joy, mazal, and all the beautiful things. So we'll now start the Havdallah.
Here, hold it. I want you to. Why?
Hine el Yeshua siyevtach v'lo yefchad ki yazi v'zimras yo Adonai v'yili Lishua sheyawaftem mayim besasoin mi ma'ine hayeshua ladoyinoi hayeshua wa'alamecha b'yirchasechasela Adonai tzivay simanu mizgavanu le'yagazela. Adonai tzivay sashiyadam baite yachbach. Adonai yoshia hamelech yaneinu v'yayim kawareinu. La Yehudim Havoisa Vayira V'simcha V'sazayin V'yikarekein Tielanu Kedush V'ezezu V'shem Adonai Ekra Samri Meronon Baruch Ato Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Beidei Pri Agafen Baruch Ato Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Beidei Minei Psamim Baruch Ato Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Beidei Minei Psamim Baruch Ato Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Hamavdil Ben Kodesh LeChoil Ben Ar LeChoshech Ben Yisrael LaAmim Ben Yom HaShviyi L'Sheshes Yemei HaMaaseh Baruch Ato Adonai Hamavdil Ben Kodesh LeChoil. Now we pour from the cup of bracha to put out the candle and to take blessings for all of us, for wisdom, faith in Mashiach, parnasa, livelihood, mazel, and only the beautiful things that we ask for all the time. We'll just make a bracha achrona, the blessing after drinking the wine, and from there we'll go to our weekly story. Baruch Atah Mechelam. Allah Gafa Priya Gafa, do so let it come to ever Chava Shirtis or Chatla Sen Lachem, Beyond was Ben Mitzvah, Chen, no less on the Bechava Shaim, Rechavat Zimish Gank with Dechamal, the Chavala Chalacha. Nay, Shaim, the Kajmir, Vimina, and Tzachal, Chen, Barak, the Shavatara, Kiato, Metivaka, Melacha, Al Horetz, Al Priya Gavan, Al Horetz, Al Priya Gafen. So, as we start to say, those who came on right at the beginning, that even though it's after Shabbat, Purim was Thursday night, Friday, but really we're still in the spirit of Purim. First of all, Shabbat going into Purim, this whole Shabbat was full of the spirit of Purim. Like we and many people actually ate the Purim meal and the Shabbat meal together. We started late Friday afternoon and we went into Shabbat. And I want to thank all those in TMR who came to shul after the meal before curfew so we can do Kabbalat Shabbat together. Heather, thank your husband. Was
And
helped
also,
make the
if
minyan.
those of you remember, when we did Purim in the shtetl years ago, that's how we did it. Who remembers our Purim in the shtetl
In Lucerne
on
still.
Lucerne? Yeah, the Kelseys remember.
Yeah,
Heather,
yeah.
you remember? Ellie and Lily, and that you remember with the animals on Lucerne. You were with us then.
I'm sure you remember.
Yeah.
So actually today, Shushan Purim, which is the day they celebrate Purim in Jerusalem, which usually be today because of Shabbos, they couldn't. So this year they do something special. It's called Purim Meshulish. It's a 3-day Purim. They read the Megillah like all of us Thursday night, Friday. Today was the day of Purim. Today was the day of Purim for them, but they couldn't do any of the mitzvahs. And tomorrow is when they do all of the mitzvahs of Purim, the Shalach Manot and the giving the money to the poor and the meal they all do tomorrow. So because in Jerusalem, they're still celebrating Purim until tomorrow night, it's definitely we're in the spirit of Purim. So I want to share with you a modern day Purim miracle. And if any one of you had heard this from me before, I apologize, but it's good enough to tell again. And I've been telling people throughout Shabbos and Purim that really growing up by the Rebbe, Chabad, Purim was the most beautiful holiday. Because at the end of Purim, after we all ate our meals, and the most Chabad people, by the time the end of Purim happens, you said a lot of l'chaim, everyone's in a very happy mood. We would gather together by the Rebbe for a Farbrengen. Starting for the first year, became Rebbe 1951 through 1991. The Rebbe had a Farbrengen every year Purim, and it was the highlight of the year because it was the mood, the mood was very joyous, very happy. Not only happy, it was unusual things happened. Many, many incredible moments of the Rebbe's openness of miracles and breaking barriers. Many, many different stories that are connected to Purim. One year, the Rebbe said in a moment of Purim Farbrengen, whoever wants to be wealthy, raise your hand. And most people were fools and they didn't, but the few people that did became very wealthy. It was a very unusual moment. But I want to tell you a story that happened in 1953, a modern day miracle, because we celebrate on Purim really how Haman, Purim wasn't just against the Gentiles. It was all focused on Haman. Haman, who was a descendant of Amalek, Amalek being the greatest enemy of the Jews of time immemorial. In the past, in the far past, when the Jews left Egypt, in the story of Purim, 2,400 years ago, Hitler Yamach Shemai, and there were other Hamans, people who look to destroy the Jews for no reason except a base hatred of the Jewish people. And there was a fellow, another Haman, in recent times, in recent history, that in the last century, that Purim was his downfall. And the story goes like this. In 1953, by a Purim Farbrengen, very lively, people were saying plenty of l'chaim already before the Farbrengen. The Rebbe was in a very lively mood and very upbeat. And in the middle of the Farbrengen, from left field, the Rebbe started to tell a story. And the Rebbe said that in Russia, Chabad's roots are in Russia, before the revolution, the Bolshevik Revolution, communism came in, the Russians were already becoming very uneasy with the Romanov family, the Tsars, who took advantage of all the Russian people, were stealing and pilfering from them and living a great life. And there was a lot of pressure on the Romanov family. So at some point in the early 1900s, they decided that they're going to buckle into some of the pressure that's coming and to create elections. So they were going to create a Politburo, a sort of a house of elected officials. In reality, these elected officials were not going to be given any real powers, but at least to the people who are not in touch with what's really going on, it looked like they were putting a person in Moscow, in Leningrad, who was going to represent the people and their wishes, and to finally get the true representation. And everyone was excited about it. But the Hasidim were very moved from Russian life. You know, they tolerated the Tsars for many years, who allowed Judaism to operate, but always trying to knock them down in many different ways, spiritually and definitely poverty. They kept the Jews in dire poverty. So the question was, there's elections. What does the Rebbe say? The Rebbe Rashad, the fifth Lubavitch Rebbe. What does he say? Do we go to vote? Do we don't go to vote? That was the question. That's what the Rebbe says. So one chassid, a very devout chassid, spent his day studying and praying. He knew nothing was going on in the outside world, in the big world outside, and definitely Russian politics. So he asked his fellow chassidim, what did the Rebbe say? They said, the Rebbe said, you have to go vote. It's important to show your vote. So if the Rebbe said you have to go vote, there's no question, you go and vote. But he wasn't voting to be, to vote to show us that he's a free person. He's voting because there was a command of the Rebbe. So when a chassid listens to the Rebbe, you don't just listen. He went to the mikveh that morning. He put on his gartel like we used to pray. When you follow what the Rebbe says and you're doing what the Rebbe's mission, you got to go like an ambassador of the Rebbe. And he goes to the voting station. He asked his friends, what do I do there? What do we do when we go to the voting station? So his friend said, when you go to the voting station, you will do what everyone else does. They'll show you what to do what everyone else does. So, okay. He goes, he's wearing his gartel, he's waiting in line. What do? You say you go behind this little screen. No one is looking, and you punch out the person who you want to vote. He asked the people who's the name you should punch out. They told him a name. Anyways, he punches out. And as he goes out of the little screen, the voting booth, towards the exit of the building, he sees that no one's leaving. After people vote, they all stand in line. The Russians are so excited. They finally are getting their chance to vote, to have their say, that they're all screaming, hoorah, hoorah, hoorah. So he thought, this chassid, that this is part of the voting process. First you go to the screen, the room, behind the screen, and then you go and you hoorah. So he's shouting with them, hoorah, hoorah, thinking, I don't know what they're saying, but to me, hoorah is two Hebrew words. Hu means he, ra is bad. So he was thinking they're all bad. To me, they're all bad. All these people that they're representing, the Russians, they're all bad. So everyone is screaming, hoorah, hoorah, they're excited to vote. And this fellow is screaming, hoorah, that they're bad, That's what he's thinking in his mind. Anyways, the Rebbe said the story, and he continues talking. And a few moments later, the Rebbe again repeats the story. And as the Rebbe is repeating the story, the Rebbe, in the middle, when he gets to the part of hoorah, the Rebbe continues saying, hoorah, hoorah, hoorah. So the Chassidim picked up the cue that the Rebbe sort of wanted them to join in. And the whole crowd, and the hundreds of people who were there, maybe over 1,000, in this 1953, started to join in, hoorah, hoorah. And there was a big noise coming out of, it wasn't 770. Those days, 770 was the small building only. It was a rented hall. Hoorah, hoorah, hoorah. And this going on for a few minutes. And then when it finished, the Rebbe continued talking about another subject. And the Chassidim were wondering, so what kind of unusual? The Rebbe told the story twice. Then he wanted everyone to say hoorah, like what was going on? No one understood. But the Rebbe does things on a different level, on a spiritual level. Life went on. 3 days later, all of a sudden, news started to break in the States and the world that Stalin passed away. That the great leader of the Russian people, the Haman of Russia, the person who killed not only tens of millions of his people, they say even more than Hitler, but who killed countless amounts of Jews. And in 1953, he was in the middle of what's called the doctor's plot. He created a whole false story, how the doctors in Russia are plotting to kill all of the important people in the Russian society, all government members. Who were the doctors in Russia? Mostly Jews. And he created the doctor's plot because he wanted the Russian people to turn on the Jews. And then he created a land, the hinterland, which they called in Azerbaijan, which they made a place where all the streets signs are in Yiddish, even till today it exists, that he would put all the Jews in that place. So once they were all out of the crosshairs of the Russian people, and no one even cared or knew about them, he was planning to destroy and kill all the Jews. This was the plot that he was in the middle of cooking. And it was very much in the happening, in the making. And all of a sudden, Stalin dies. Surprise, he wasn't sick. So initially, Russia said he wasn't well, and then the day later said he died. But as word started to get around and people were looking a little deeper, they realized and they found out that Stalin did not die when they put out the news that he died. Stalin died a few days earlier. But the Russians didn't want to announce it to the world or even to their own people until they figured out how the Communist Party is going to continue, who's going to be the leader. And it took 3 days till they figured out. Once they figured out, then they announced to the world Stalin died, and they already had their new leader. So when did Stalin actually die? Purim night. The Purim night of that Farbrengen. And that now they understood what the Rebbe was doing. The Rebbe saw in heaven, this is a moment that needed all the strength of us on earth to get rid of another Haman. And when all the Chassidim joined in, they said, "Hoorah, he is bad, he is bad." And these were Chassidim who all came from Russia. These are Chassidim who all grew up under Stalinist Russia, where he took away their rights. He killed so many of them. And they were lucky to be able to run away, but yet many of them still had relatives in Russia. And I had a great uncle who stayed in prison, who was in prison under Stalinist Russia for Jewish activities. Luckily, he survived. These were the people, when they screamed, "Hoorah, hoorah," ultimately, the modern day miracle of 1953 is that another Haman, in the midst of the plot like Haman to kill all the Jews, and Russia was the largest Jewish country of Jews, even at that time. And when he died, all of his plans died with him. Actually, they let out all the political prisoners. And afterwards, it was still difficult for Jews in Russia, but it was not as difficult as it was under Stalin. But definitely this whole plan to kill the Jews, the doctor plot was shelved, it was over, and the Jewish people were saved. So this is the modern day miracle, which I wasn't there, but I know people who were there. Besides the recordings of everything that the Farbrengen, we've heard it many times. People were there and they remember as the story unfolded. So may Hashem help that any Haman that we have, and whether it's someone like Iran who wants to try to be a Haman, no power, but is just trying to bark and make, should all find their true end. And no enemy of the Jewish people should have any platform to stand on. And Hashem should help that, just like that, a miracle where the Jewish people became the favorites and the one everyone looked up to. So it should be with the coming of Mashiach quickly in our days. That'll be the true miracle of Purim. We'll come out of this exile and we will be there with Mashiach, all the Jews together, and the whole world as one, recognizing that the greatness of Hashem and His truth in the world. So I want to wish everyone a Shavua Tov, and in this spirit, we should go into the week proud and knowing that Hashem always has our back, and we just have to have Hashem's back in this world to keep His name fully there in front of everyone's eyes and be a good example. So we'll finish off with singing as we always do. Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Agiladi. B'meheira yavo eleinu Mashiach ben David. B'meheira yavo eleinu Mashiach ben David. Mashiach ben David.
Shavua tov.
Shavua tov. We love you all.
So nice to see you all.
Shavua tov.
The beautiful things and great things.
Hi,
Shavua tov.
Samantha. How are you?
Samantha, hello. Heather, Sharon, Ellie, Lily, and Adam. All the best.
Have
How-
a wonderful week, everyone. Stay well.
You too,
Amen.
Sharon. Stay well.
Bye.
Hi,
Speak to you soon.
What's up?
Shavua
Bye.
tov. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. How was Purim? The kids got dressed up
Yeah, a little bit.
for school.
Yeah. You know what? We're home this week, so they had a little thing on Zoom, but
Oh, their class closed this week?
Isaac's class is closed for 2 weeks because there was a case.
Yeah.
So then I stay home too. But anyway, Isaac's test came back negative now, so
Okay.
Beautiful.
he's home one more, and we can go back on Monday.
Oh, my gosh. My
So,
grandkids,
so that's
each one,
it was very
my
quiet. this year.
grandkids, each one had their turn to have a class closed.
Yeah, that's it. So what can you do? It was a little hectic with that and work, but what can you do?
Right, right. Not fun,
No.
but it's better than having them home full time.
No. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, exactly.
Can I tell
How are you?
good thanks and you?
Good. I
So good
haven't
to see you,
seen in
Samantha.
so
and Thank you for
long.
helping with the Shalach Manis.
Yeah.
You're delivering,
Yes.
right?